My sister used to say it like a joke. "You're not real family." She'd laugh, usually in front of other people, like it was harmless. Like it didn't carve something hollow into my chest every single time. She never let me forget it. Not at holidays. Not at birthdays. Not at family dinners where my name somehow never made it into the conversation. To her, I didn't belong. I was tolerated, managed, kept around out of obligation. So when my 25th birthday came and went without a candle, a card, or even my name spoken out loud, I told myself I was used to it. Then my grandmother pulled me close. Her hand tightened around mine as she slipped a sealed envelope into my palm and whispered, "It's time, but don't open this at home." I sat alone in my car for an hour, staring at that envelope, and when I finally read the first line inside, I whispered, "No way." My name is Emily Carter, and for as long as I can remember, my sister decided who mattered in our family. She was 3 years older than me, confident in a way I never was. She spoke loudly, moved freely, and took up space like the house itself had been built around her. I learned early to make myself smaller physically and emotionally. When we were kids, it started with little things. She got the front seat. She chose the TV channel. She decided which cousins were real and which ones were just visiting. And somehow, I always fell into that second category. The first time she said it out loud, we were in the kitchen after school. I'd asked if I could borrow one of her sweaters. She looked me up and down, then smirked. "Why do you act like this is your house?" she said. "It's not like your real family anyway." I laughed, because that's what you do when you don't understand something yet. But later that night, when I asked my mom what she meant, Mom didn't deny it. She just sighed and said, "Your sister doesn't mean it like that. You're just different, different." That word followed me everywhere. At family gatherings, Rachel introduced me as Emily. She lives with us. Not my sister. Not my sibling. Just someone who happened to be there. If I complained, she rolled her eyes. "You're too sensitive," she'd say. "You should be grateful we include you at all." My parents never corrected her. Not once. And when silence keeps repeating the same message long enough, you start to believe it's true. By the time I was a teenager, I had learned the rules without anyone spelling them out. Rachel spoke first. Rachel decided. Rachel mattered. I existed quietly beside her, trying not to take up space in a family that never felt like it was mine. And the worst part? She knew exactly what she was doing. By the time I turned 12, it was no longer just something my sister said. It had become something everyone did. Rachel didn't need to remind me I wasn't real family anymore. The way the house functioned did that for her. Every rule, every expectation, every silence seemed designed to keep me in a specific place on the edge. At birthdays, Rachel stood at the center of the room, candles glowing, everyone singing her name. I hovered nearby, holding plates, refilling drinks, smiling when relatives thanked me for helping out. And cated. Once, an aunt leaned down and whispered, "Isn't today your birthday too, sweetheart?" Before I could answer, Rachel laughed from across the table. "Oh, Emily doesn't care about that stuff. She's not really into celebrations." No one questioned it. At holidays, gifts piled up under the tree mostly for Rachel. If there was something with my name on it, it was usually practical. Socks, a scarf, a gift card with no note. When a cousin asked why I didn't have more presents, my dad cleared his throat and said, "She's mature for her age." That word again, mature. It meant I didn't need attention. It meant I shouldn't complain. It meant I was expected to understand why everyone else mattered more. Rachel went to summer camps and college prep programs. I got a part-time job at 16. When I asked why, Mom smiled tightly and said, "You're more independent. Your sister needs structure." Rachel heard that and smirked at me later in the hallway. "See?" she whispered. "You're different. Always have been." I tried to earn my place the only way I knew how, by being useful. I cleaned without being asked. I stayed quiet during arguments. I never talked back. I told myself that if I made myself easy enough to live with, someone would eventually choose me. But love doesn't work like that. It doesn't grow from silence. And it doesn't reward disappearance. As we got older, Rachel became bolder. At family dinners, she interrupted me mid-sentence. At gatherings, she introduced me as, "This is Emily. She lives with us. Not my sister. Not my sibling. Just someone occupying space." Once, when I corrected her softly, carefully, she laughed. Relax, she said. Why are you so sensitive? You should be grateful we include you at all. Grateful. That word stayed with me longer than it should have. I learned to swallow questions before they reached my mouth. I learned not to expect fairness. I learned that if something hurt, it was probably my fault for noticing. My parents never defended me. They didn't insult me directly. They didn't need to. Their silence did the work for them. If Rachel crossed a line, Mom said, that's just how she is. If I got upset, Dad said, don't make things difficult. So I stopped. I stopped asking. I stopped reacting. I stopped hoping. By high school, I had perfected the art of being invisible. Teachers praised me for being low maintenance. Friends said I was easygoing. Family members described me as quiet. No one asked if I was okay. The only person who ever seemed to notice was my grandmother, Margaret. She never corrected Rachel publicly, but she watched, always watching. Her eyes followed conversations. Her hand lingered on my shoulder a little longer than necessary. Every year, without fail, a card arrived in the mail on my actual birthday. Lavender paper. Neat, looping handwriting. Remember who you are, she wrote. The truth doesn't disappear just because someone refuses to see it. I didn't understand what she meant. At the time, I thought the truth was obvious. I thought the truth was that I didn't belong. But somewhere deep down, buried under years of quiet obedience, I wondered if maybe that wasn't the whole story. If maybe someone had seen the system my sister built. And if maybe, someday, it would finally crack. By the time my 25th birthday approached, I told myself not to expect anything. That was my survival skill, lower the bar so disappointment wouldn't hurt as much. Still, some small, foolish part of me hoped. 25 felt like a milestone, a quarter of a century. Maybe this time, someone would remember. Maybe this time my name would be spoken out loud. The week before, my mom texted me. Family dinner this Saturday. Don't be late. No cake emoji. No happy birthday. Just instructions. I should have known. When I arrived at my parents' house that evening, the driveway was already full. Balloons were tied to the porch railing. I stepped closer and read the banner stretched across the front of the house. Congratulations, Rachel. Not even a space left for my name. Inside, the house buzzed with energy. Music played softly. The dining table was set with expensive plates we only used for special occasions. Guests moved easily through the rooms, wine glasses in hand. Rachel stood at the center of it all, radiant in a fitted dress, laughing as someone congratulated her on her promotion. She saw me and smiled, not warmly, not cruelly, just satisfied. You made it, she said. Good, we're running behind. Before I could respond, my mom appeared beside me and pressed a folded sheet of paper into my hands. Can you help? She asked, already turning away. Bathrooms need checking, the drinks need refilling, and make sure the caterers know where to set up dessert. Do it, dessert. I glanced at the paper. It was a list. A long one. I looked up. Mom, isn't this? She cut me off gently but firmly. Rachel's had a big year. This night is important for her. Important. I nodded. Of course I did. I always did. As I moved through the house, wiping counters and directing staff, guests thanked me politely, assuming I was hired help. No one corrected them. At one point, I passed the hallway table and saw a familiar lavender envelope sitting there already opened, already pushed aside under a stack of mail. My birthday card from Grandma. They hadn't even given it to me. By the time everyone had arrived, the living room was full. Rachel clinked her glass to get attention. My father stepped forward, chest puffed with pride. I just want to say how proud I am of my daughter, he said. Rachel has always been driven, focused. She knows what she wants and she goes after it. Applause filled the room. She's a true reflection of our family values. The words landed hard. Family values. Rachel caught my eye across the room and raised her glass slightly, like this was a private joke between us. Then my aunt, one of the few relatives who still tried, spoke up. Isn't it Emily's birthday today, too? The room went quiet for half a second. Rachel laughed. Oh, she said lightly. We're not really celebrating that. My dad chuckled, shaking his head. Yeah, she's different, again. Someone murmured an awkward, oh. Another guest looked away. The moment passed quickly. swallowed by music and conversation. But something inside me cracked. I stood there, holding an empty tray, while my own birthday disappeared in real time. That's when I saw my grandmother. She sat slightly apart from the group, hands folded in her lap, eyes sharp despite her age. She had seen everything, every word, every omission. When our eyes met, she didn't smile. She nodded, just once. A quiet, deliberate gesture that sent a chill through me. Later, when the crowd shifted toward the dining room, she motioned for me to follow her outside. The night air was cool. The noise of the party faded behind us. "Happy birthday, my girl," she said softly. Those 4 words almost broke me. She took my hand and pressed something into it, a thick envelope, sealed, heavier than paper should feel. "It's time," she said. I stared at it, confused. "What is this?" "Your answer," she replied. "But listen carefully." Her grip tightened. "Do not open it here. And do not open it at home." Before I could ask anything else, Rachel's voice drifted from the doorway. "Why are you two sneaking around?" My grandmother straightened slowly, her voice calm but unyielding. "Because some things," she said, "are not meant for everyone." Rachel frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," Grandma replied, "that not everything belongs to you." For the first time all night, Rachel didn't have a comeback. I slipped the envelope into my bag, heart pounding. I didn't know yet what it contained. But as I walked back inside past the banner, the guests, the celebration that had erased me, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever was in that envelope was about to change everything. I didn't drive home right away. I couldn't. I sat in my car at the far end of the street, engine off, windows fogging slightly from my breath. The house behind me glowed with warm light and laughter, my sister's laughter floating out into the night like proof that the world inside was continuing just fine without me. The envelope sat on the passenger seat, sealed, heavy, quiet. I stared at it for a long time, my hands resting uselessly in my lap. Grandma's warning echoed in my head, "Don't open this at home." That meant something. Whatever was inside wasn't just information. It was disruption. I picked it up, turned it over, felt the texture of the paper. This wasn't a birthday card. This wasn't sentimental. The seal was formal, deliberate. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "Where did you disappear to? You should help clean up." I didn't respond. For once, I didn't rush back in. I took a breath, then another. My hands were shaking as I broke the seal. Inside were documents, real ones, typed, structured, official. The first page had a title that made my stomach drop. Irrevocable Living Trust. Established. March 1998. I blinked. That was the year I was born. I flipped the page, heart pounding louder with every line of legal language I barely understood. Then my eyes landed on the name. Beneficiary, Emily Rose Carter. Sole beneficiary. I whispered it out loud, just to hear it. Sole beneficiary. The car felt suddenly too small. I turned the page again. There were assets listed. Not abstract ones. Specific ones. A residential property. A financial account. Both placed into trust before I could even speak. At the bottom of the page, a clause stood out, underlined. Full control transferred to beneficiary upon reaching the age of 25. My throat tightened. Tonight. I fumbled through the rest of the contents and found a letter folded carefully at the back. Lavender paper, Grandma's handwriting. I knew before I opened it that this was the part that would hurt. My dearest Emily. If you're reading this, then you're finally old enough and strong enough to hear the truth. I swallowed hard and kept reading. You were never not real family. That story was never yours. It was a lie built to make exclusion easier and guilt quieter. My vision blurred. I saw it from the beginning. The way Rachel was allowed to take up space. The way you were taught to shrink. When you were born, I promised myself I would never let the world leave you unprotected, even if your own family did. My hands were trembling now. This trust was created so that no one could take from you what was always meant to be yours. Not through pressure. Not through silence. Not through rewriting the past. I leaned back against the seat, chest tight, breath shallow. All those years. All those moments I thought I was imagining things. The letter ended with a single line, written darker than the rest. Some people call you family only when it benefits them. Paper remembers the truth. I stared at that sentence until it burned into me. Paper remembers. I wiped my face with the sleeve of my jacket and picked up the documents again, reading more carefully now. Dates, signatures, witnesses, a law firm's name printed neatly at the top. This wasn't symbolic. It was enforceable. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was my mother. "Come back inside. Your sister is asking for you." I laughed once, quietly, humorlessly. My sister had spent my entire life reminding me I didn't belong, and now, somewhere behind me, she was standing in a house that wasn't hers, celebrating a future that had never been promised. I started the car, but I didn't go home. I drove to a quiet parking lot near the river and sat there, rereading every page, making sure I wasn't misinterpreting anything. I even Googled the name of the law firm. It was real. Very real. That's when the fear set in, not fear of losing something, but fear of what would happen when everyone else realized what I had gained. Because I knew my family. They wouldn't ask questions first. They would ask favors. They would ask for silence. They would ask me to be reasonable. My phone rang. Rachel. I let it ring. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one waiting to be chosen. I was the one holding the truth. And suddenly, I understood why Grandma had told me not to open the envelope at home, because once the truth was out, there would be no safe place left to hide from it. The calls started the next morning. I hadn't even finished my coffee when my phone lit up with my sister's name. I stared at the screen until it stopped vibrating, then placed the phone face down on the table. 30 seconds later, it rang again. This time, it was my mother. I answered, already bracing myself. "Emily," she said, her voice tight but carefully gentle. "Where did you go last night?" "You left without saying anything." "I went home," I replied. There was a pause. I could hear her breathing, measured, like she was choosing each word. "Rachel said, Grandma gave you something." "Of course she did." "It was just a birthday card," I said, not lying but not telling the truth either. Mom exhaled in relief, too quickly. "Oh, good, that's good. Then," almost casually, "you know how sentimental your grandmother can be. Sometimes she gets confused." Confused. That word hit differently now. "I don't think she's confused," I said. Silence stretched between us. "Well," Mom said finally, "if she gave you paperwork or anything official, your father should probably see it. Families shouldn't keep secrets." I almost laughed. Families shouldn't keep secrets. After everything they'd hidden in plain sight. "I'm busy today," I said. "I'll call you later." I hung up before she could respond. By noon, my father emailed me. The subject line read, "Family coordination documents." Attached was a PDF. I opened it slowly, my pulse ticking louder with every scroll. It was short, clinical, written in legal language meant to look harmless. By signing, I would acknowledge that I had no claim present or future to any family property or financial assets. They were trying to erase me. Again, my stomach dropped, not from fear, but from the clarity of it all. This wasn't panic. This was strategy. They didn't know what Grandma had given me, but they knew enough to be worried. I forwarded the document to the law firm listed on the trust. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. "Emily Carter?" a calm male voice asked. "This is Daniel Moore, associate attorney at Collins & Moore." "Yes. I'm calling regarding the document you sent. Do not sign it." The firmness in his voice steadied me. "If you sign that form," he continued, "you would be voluntarily relinquishing any rights you currently hold or may hold in the future. Based on what I see here, that would not be in your best interest." "So they know something," I said quietly. "They suspect something," he corrected. "This is preemptive." After the call, I sat in silence for a long time. By evening, Rachel showed up at my apartment. She didn't knock. She rang the bell twice, sharp and impatient, like she always had. When I opened the door, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "There you are," she said. "You really worried, Mom." She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, looking around like she was inspecting a place she didn't approve of. "So," she continued, "what did Grandma give you?" "Why?" I asked. Rachel shrugged. "She's old. Dad just wants to make sure everything's clear. You know how messy things get when people start misunderstanding paperwork." I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Did he ask you to sign anything?" she added, watching my face closely. There it was. I met her gaze. "Yes." Her smile flickered. And? She pressed. I didn't sign. Her expression hardened, just for a moment. You should, she said quickly. It's not a big deal. It's just a formality. You're not really involved in the estate anyway. There it was again. That familiar line. Not really involved. Not really family. I took a slow breath. Rachel, I said. Why does it matter so much? She scoffed. Because it's about fairness. I almost laughed. Fairness? I repeated. You've spent my entire life telling me I don't belong. Now you're worried about fairness? Her voice sharpened. Don't twist this. Grandma favors you because she feels sorry for you. That doesn't mean you get to take what's meant for the rest of us. Meant, I said softly. According to who? She stepped closer. You don't want to start something you can't finish, she warned. You don't win these kinds of fights. For the first time, I didn't step back. I'm not fighting, I said. I'm listening. She stared at me, searching for something fear. Maybe. Doubt. She didn't find it. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, then straightened. Think about it, she said coldly. Signing that paper would make everything easier. For who? I asked. She didn't answer. After she left, I locked the door and slid down against it, heart racing not from intimidation, but from realization. They were afraid. Not of me. Of losing control. That night, my grandmother texted me. They will try to make you doubt yourself. Don't. I planned for this. I stared at the message for a long time, then I replied, I trust you. I went to bed knowing the calm was temporary. The trust was real. The law was on my side. And very soon, my family would realize that the story they'd been telling for 25 years was about to be read aloud, in a room where no one could interrupt, rewrite, or laugh it away. The days leading up to the legal reading felt unreal, like I was walking through my own life a few seconds behind myself. Monday morning, my father called. Emily, he said, using my name the way people do when they want something. We need you back at the house this weekend. Said Vans. For what? I asked. There was a pause. A calculation. Your grandmother is preparing things, he said. We need to make sure everything transitions smoothly. Smoothly. I knew what that meant. He wanted control before the truth took it from him. I already have plans, I said. His voice tightened. This is family business. The word family landed differently now. I'll be there when it's appropriate, I replied. He hung up without saying goodbye. Tuesday was my mother. Her tone was softer. Always softer. Your father's under a lot of stress, she said. Rachel too. This whole situation with Grandma is confusing everyone. Is it confusing? I asked. Or inconvenient? She ignored the question. You could help, she continued. Just sign the paperwork. It doesn't change anything important. It just keeps the peace. Keep the peace. I stared at the wall as she spoke, remembering how often peace had meant silence. Compliance. Me stepping back so someone else could stand taller. I'm not signing anything, I said. She sighed, long and theatrical. You've always made things harder than they need to be. I almost laughed at that. Wednesday came with a text from Rachel. Dad says we all need to sign something before Saturday. It's no big deal. Just logistics. Logistics. I forwarded the message to Daniel, the attorney. He called me within minutes. They're trying to secure waivers, he said flatly. Do not meet them privately. Do not sign anything. And do not discuss details of the trust with them. They don't know yet, I said. No, he agreed. But they're close enough to be dangerous. And if you came to be filed Tensted. Thursday night, my father emailed again. Another document. Another attempt. This one was titled Family Asset Coordination Agreement. I didn't even open it. Instead, I closed my laptop, stood up, and walked to my closet. Buried in the back was a navy blue suit I'd bought months earlier for a job interview I'd been too afraid to attend. The tags were still on it. I remembered standing in the store, staring at myself in the mirror, wondering who I thought I was trying to be. I took the suit out and laid it across my bed. Then I did something I'd never done before. I planned. I reviewed every document in the trust. I highlighted names, dates, clauses. I practiced saying my own name out loud without apologizing for it. Emily Rose Carter, sole beneficiary. That night, Rachel showed up again. This time, she didn't pretend to be friendly. She stood in my doorway, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "You're enjoying this," she said. "Enjoying what?" I asked. "The attention," she snapped. "The drama. Making everyone nervous." I met her gaze steadily. "No," I said. "I'm enjoying clarity." She scoffed. "You think a few papers change who you are?" I thought of Grandma's letter. "Of the years of being erased. I think they prove who I've always been," I replied. Her voice dropped. "You walk into that meeting on Saturday," she said slowly, "and you'll burn bridges you can't rebuild." I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "Some bridges were built to keep me out." She stared at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. Maybe she didn't. After she left, I sat alone on my bed, the suit beside me, the documents neatly stacked on my desk. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of what they would say. I was afraid of what they would hear. Friday night, my grandmother texted me. "Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Downtown. The attorneys will explain everything. You don't need to defend yourself. The truth will do that." I replied with one word. "Ready." I slept surprisingly well. Saturday morning, I put on the suit. It fit better than I remembered. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see the girl who used to hover at the edge of rooms, waiting to be told where she belonged. I saw someone who had already decided. As I walked into the building downtown, glass, steel, quiet authority, I felt my phone vibrate. A final message from Rachel. "You don't have to do this." I turned the phone off. Because I did. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't walking into a room to ask for permission. I was walking in to take my seat, at a table that had been waiting for me all along. The conference room was colder than I expected. Glass walls, a long polished table, leather chairs arranged with quiet authority. Everything about the space said this was a place where feelings didn't matter, only facts did. My parents arrived first. My father walked in like he owned the room, straight-backed, confident, wearing his best suit. My mother followed, lips pressed tight, eyes darting toward me and then away again. Rachel came last. She didn't look at me. She didn't have to. I could feel her tension like static in the air. "Good morning," the attorney said calmly. "Please, have a seat." They sat together on one side of the table. I sat alone across from them. It felt symbolic. The attorney, Mr. Daniels, adjusted his glasses and opened a folder. "We're here to review the estate arrangements of Margaret Collins," he began. "Specifically, the assets currently held outside of her general will." My father nodded impatiently. Yes," he said. "The house, the savings standard distribution, we'd like to move forward quickly." Rachel leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. Mr. Daniels didn't react. "The assets in question," he continued, "are not distributed through the will." The room went still. My father frowned. "What do you mean, not distributed?" "They were placed into an irrevocable living trust," Mr. Daniels said, voice even. "Established in 1998. Rachel straightened. "A trust?" she repeated. "For what?" "For protection," he replied. My mother's hand found my father's arm. "Richard," she whispered. "Did you know about this?" My father shook his head sharply. "Of course not. My mother-in-law would have told us." Mr. Daniels flipped a page. "The trust names a single beneficiary." Rachel laughed once, sharp and dismissive. "Well, that's easy," she said. "It's obviously." He turned the folder toward me. "Miss Emily Carter." The sound Rachel made wasn't a scream. It was smaller than that, a sharp intake of breath, like the air had been punched out of her. My father stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly across the floor. "That's impossible," he said. "She's not." "Please sit down," Mr. Daniels said firmly. My father didn't. "She's not real family," Rachel said, her voice rising. "She doesn't get to." "Rachel," my mother whispered urgently. Mr. Daniels raised a hand. "For the record," he said, "Miss Carter is the sole and exclusive beneficiary of the trust. The documents are valid, notarized, and legally binding." He pressed a button on the table. A screen lit up behind him. The trust document appeared, page 1 enlarged. My name was unmistakable. Rachel stared at it like it was written in a foreign language. "No," she said quietly. "That's not right," Mr. Daniels continued. "In addition, there has been some confusion regarding Miss Carter's status within the family." He clicked again. A new document appeared. A birth certificate. My mother's name. My father's name. My name. "No adoption," he said clearly. "No amendments." Miss Carter is and has always been your biological daughter. The room fractured. My mother covered her mouth. My father looked like he might fall. Rachel shook her head violently. No, she said. That's wrong. She was never. She turned to my father. You told me. He didn't answer. For the first time in my life, Rachel looked unsure. Mr. Daniels folded his hands. The trust includes the residential property at 214 Willow Lane, he said, as well as the associated financial accounts. My father's voice cracked. That house belongs to us. No, Mr. Daniels replied. It never did. The property was never transferred. You have been residing there with permission only. Permission. Rachel laughed again, hysterical this time. You're saying, she said, pointing at me, that she owns the house? Yes, Mr. Daniels said. Silence slammed into the room. I stood up. Every eye turned to me. I'm not here to humiliate anyone, I said, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. I didn't ask for this. I didn't even know about it until last week. Rachel stared at me like I'd betrayed her. You're enjoying this, she hissed. No, I said softly. I'm surviving it. My father took a step toward me. Emily, he said, suddenly gentle. We're family. We can work this out. The word family felt heavy in my mouth. You spent my entire life telling me I wasn't, I said. You don't get to use it now. My mother started crying. Rachel slammed her hand on the table. You think this makes you better than us? She snapped. You think money fixes everything? No, I said. Truth does. Mr. Daniels cleared his throat. As of today, he said, Miss Carter has full legal control of the trust assets. My father sank back into his chair. Rachel looked at me, eyes burning. This isn't over, she said. I met her gaze. It is for me. When the meeting ended, I gathered my papers calmly. No shaking hands, no rushed movements. As I walked out of the room, I didn't look back. I didn't need to. For the first time in my life, the story they had written about me had been read out loud, and it didn't belong to them anymore. I didn't feel victorious when I walked out of that building. I felt quiet. Not empty, just still. Like something that had been loud inside me for years had finally stopped shouting. The days after the legal reading passed in a blur. My phone stayed silent at first. No apologies, no explanations, just space. Then, slowly, reality settled in. The house that had never felt like mine was legally, undeniably mine now. I walked through its rooms alone one afternoon, noticing details I'd never allowed myself to claim before, the way the light fell across the hallway. The creak in the stairs I used to avoid because Rachel hated the sound. I took down the framed family photo that had hung in the living room for as long as I could remember. In it, Rachel stood in the center, my parents smiling proudly beside her. I was barely visible at the edge of the frame. I didn't throw the photo away. I just put it in a box. My grandmother came to stay with me the following weekend. We sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around warm mugs, the silence between us comfortable instead of tense. You did well, she said. I didn't do anything, I replied. You did. She smiled gently. I protected you, she corrected. But you chose yourself. That night, I paid off my student loans. Every dollar I'd struggled to earn while being told I should be grateful for less. The relief wasn't just financial, it was emotional. A month later, my mother sent me a letter. Handwritten. Careful. She apologized not for everything, but enough to tell me she'd finally seen it. She wrote that she'd spent years choosing comfort over courage, that she didn't know if I would ever forgive her, but she wanted me to know she was trying to understand. I folded the letter and put it away. Forgiveness isn't something you owe, it's something you decide. Rachel didn't write. She texted once, I hope you're happy. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. I'm learning to be. That was the truth. I redecorated the house slowly, chose colors I liked, furniture that felt like me. I turned one spare room into an office, my space, my rules, my future. On the wall above my desk, I hung one thing. Not a photo. A single sentence, printed neatly on paper. Belonging is not something you earn by shrinking. Every Sunday, my grandmother and I had tea together. Sometimes we talked about the past, sometimes we didn't. One afternoon, she looked at me and said, Do you know what the real inheritance was? I shook my head. Choice, she said. I wanted you to have choices your family never allowed you to imagine. She was right. For 25 years, I believed I wasn't real family because someone else told me so. I let that belief shape my voice, my posture, my expectations. I thought survival meant staying quiet. I was wrong. Survival is knowing when to stop asking for permission. If you're listening to this and you've been the one pushed to the side, the sibling who was overlooked, the child who was tolerated instead of loved, I want you to hear this. You don't need documents or money to be worthy, but sometimes the truth arrives on paper because people refuse to hear it any other way. Boundaries aren't punishments. They're protections. Walking away doesn't make you cruel. It makes you honest. I didn't destroy my family. I stopped letting them define me, and that made all the difference. Today, when I sit at my own table, one I chose, in a home that's finally mine, I don't wonder where I belong. I know. Not because someone finally accepted me, but because I accepted myself. And that's the only kind of family that lasts.